Kia ora and welcome to a Yarn Live. Yeah, as you can see in the background, I'm hanging out at the Remarkables in Queenstown. Not quite, but our special guest, Olivia Wensley, who is running for Mayor of Queenstown, is definitely in Queenstown. So thank you so much for being on the show, and what an exciting thing you're doing here to be respectively become the Mayor of Queenstown, which is what is going to be the subject of our discussion. We've got some cool questions to dig deep into that. But first of all, as always, could we ask you to give everyone a bit of an intro, because most people will know you, but for those that don't, but also the opportunity to give context to what we're going to talk about today. Over to you, Olivia.
Morning, Ryan. I wish you were here in person,
Yeah.
but it's great that you'll be coming down soon. Looking forward to catching up. So,
Yes.
for those of you who don't know me, my name's Olivia Wensley, and my latest adventure is running for Mayor of Queenstown Lakes. So it's really exciting. Really looking forward to getting some positive change happening in our region.
Absolutely. Now, in the little message box, I put that I spent a lot of time growing up around Queenstown. And for those that don't know, I'm actually from Dunedin and used to go up there, have many mates from school. So where we're actually looking at is probably in the back of that image is just looking, well, it's not quite looking at Calvin Heights, but I used to stay in Calvin Heights. And we used to row a dinghy across from Calvin Heights to the shore of Queenstown, walk through the gardens, past the Garden Park Royal, which I think is probably another hotel brand by now, and then into town to have dinner, of course, as young people would be so sensible. But yeah, beautiful place down there. And thinking about it, like Mayor of Queenstown, Mayor of a city, that is one heck of a gig, one heck of an adventure. I'm pretty excited about that for you. And that's where our first question sort of goes is, you got pensions for tackling the big things that others don't want to, or that others don't want to look at, but you certainly are. So tell us, why are you wanting to run for Mayor of Queenstown?
Yeah, well, I just can't help myself when I see an opportunity and an opportunity to create real positive change, then I'm going to put my hand up to do it, even though it's going to be really tough. But I'm not afraid of a challenge, as you know. And
Yes.
what I've learned from the past is that one person can bring about huge change. And so I've been really encouraged by things that I've done in the past with my advocacy work, and I've realised that my next project is going to be the Queenstown Lakes. So it's an extension of the work that I'm doing already. So at the moment, I'm the chief executive at Startup Queenstown Lakes. We encourage and foster a startup community here in Queenstown. We're very focused on attracting more talent to town. So what happened with COVID is I saw that there was a huge amount of people coming to Queenstown Lakes because when everyone was working remotely, then they decided, hey, why don't we live somewhere that we actually want to live? So that was amazing. So I got really excited by that unexpected silver lining to COVID. So I'm already doing the work. So I want to take it to the next level. That's why I mean, I've had countless people asking me to throw my hat in the ring, and it was a big decision to make.
It is.
Love my current role, love it. So, but I know that I can do some really good things as mayor, so that's why I made that decision.
Well, what I love about you is you don't just talk about it, you do it. So, a lot of people will stand on their soapbox at the barbecue and say, this should happen and this should happen and we should do this and this is what they should do. But no one ever really, there's not thousands of people running for mayor of every city, right? So it sort of proves its point that not many people will actually step up and do the mahi. So I just want to, congratulate you on that. And looking back at your advocacy work, that's one of the things I think that people are really scared of, is being in the I guess the spotlight a little bit. But you have injected yourself into the spotlight for good causes and for creating positive change on a number of occasions, especially around the Me Too movement. So you are not unaccustomed to what it's going to be like in the campaign, one, and then also being mayor. So you've got a whole bunch of the aspects of the experience that is required to do this already highly achieved. So it gives a lot of confidence in terms of, if you were to be the mayor, what might you bring to it? And already a lot of great experience. So let's go back to the work you're doing with in your current role now,
Mhm.
and you're talking about bringing in tech talent and whatnot. COVID sort of proved that globally, tourism is not a one all be all robust economical option. And if tech, of course, tech, which is the space you're in and we're in, is great. So, in terms of what you've achieved with the CEO for Queenstown Startups Lakes, what would you like to do to grow and build that if you were to become the mayor?
Mm.
How would that amplify by having the opportunity as the mayor?
So with the work that we've been doing, there's been a lot of attraction work and focus on diversification. So, and it just comes back again, my current role is an advocacy role as well, really. So as the role of mayor is being an advocate for the region. So that's sort of why I want to take it to the next level. So in my current role, I did a lot of advocacy work for our region, making the government aware that we have this mini Silicon Valley in Queenstown in terms of talent. Uh, it's very, very attractive to tech entrepreneurs here. And so what I was able to do is we were able to secure a $20 million diversification fund. The government has also invested in a research and innovation centre, which is going to be finished next year. And so, yeah, so that kind of work is it's so rewarding and so exciting. Where some of the projects that we've been attracting is a virtual production studio, which is also backed by the government. So that's going to be formally announced soon, but that's in the works. And also a studio in Wanaka as well. So I was involved with connecting the people who wanted to get the studio built with the Edmund Hillary Fellow. And then so they were able to get investment from one of their investors was the COO of Disney for almost 20 years. And so he's coming now to Wanaka to build this film studio. So it's just this kind of work. It's just seeing this level of talent, the quality of people who want to be here. We need to be capitalizing on it. And that is why I'm running, because I see the opportunities and I really want that additional power to leverage these opportunities for the betterment of our region.
So those are three amazing things you've just raised, and I remember I think it's Jonathan Chen who's managing the innovation centre build, which is just around the Frankton area, if I'm not wrong. And then the last thing you mentioned about the chief operating officer of Disney, like holy guacamole, that's big news as far as I'm concerned, because having that international, I guess talent is maybe not the right word, but having those people with that experience and those connections now coming to centre themselves here in Wanaka, Queenstown. And interestingly enough, there is another person like that. So up here in Auckland, I have to connect you to Tim Hogan, who was the CIO for Warner Bros. And just a quick one, he was on a worldwide sailing trip when COVID hit and he got stuck in New Zealand. So he's been here and working as a CIO of a couple of companies, but he's actually just on a break at the moment. So maybe it's a good time to connect Tim to your person from Disney, and maybe they can all get together in Wanaka and make the studio or be part of making the studio happen. But the point is, here's three amazing examples that you've already been involved in. So you are already in the space, and it's an easy step across that bridge from being CEO of Startup Lakes Queenstown to being mayor and amplifying this. So in terms of, I guess it might be a matter of privacy. You wouldn't want to rattle off because you've got to show a bit of discretion here. But I know that you know of a whole range of other big tech people that are based in Queenstown. So if you were to sort of put a bit of a number on it, we're talking maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 20, 30, 50 of these amazing people that are actually residing in Queenstown now while working globally and involved in projects locally. Do you have any sort of idea of the community?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're talking the people that I call them the tech titans.
Yes.
When you have to think about the level of talent here, I mean, the founder of, do you remember Word Perfect? The word processor? Yeah. The man who invented Word Perfect lives here. And so he was acquired by Adobe.
Wow.
So I know. And so he's here, uh, business partners here. There's a man who founded F5 Networks, which grandfathered this whole cloud infrastructure in America. And he was called the Mozart of coding by the Seattle Times. So he's
Wow.
here. Yeah. So gosh, it's like tech royalty in terms of
Yes.
the quality that we have here. Uh, so I think
just getting a wee comment that comes in here from Chris Quill, who's talking about getting the VCs down there. And I think, if I think about the likes of Rob Vickery, Rod Snodgrass, Bridge West Ventures, I'm pretty sure they all are accessing and using Queenstown regularly. And I know I've seen a few of the posts. So yeah, it is becoming the hub because if you look at that photo behind me, I know my big noggin's in the way a little bit, but that's what really makes it the place attractive is the lifestyle. So the next question is, we're kind of sort of touching on it now, and that is, in terms of diversifying and making Queenstown more robust economically, is why is Queenstown so important to New Zealand's global success?
I'll just coming back to quickly on that question. So getting Blackbird down here. So I'm actually part of Blackbird. So I work with Blackbird, and so I'm the presence here. And Blackbird is great with coming down. And there's also another New Zealand-based VC that's going to be opening an office here soon. I can't say who it is, but it's happening. Yeah, so it's great. So back to the question about why Queenstown Lakes is important.
Yes.
So the Queenstown Lakes attracts as visitors some of the most interesting, incredible people in the world. So the people that come through that airport, it just blows my mind. But not doing a very good job at keeping them here. So it's got a reputation as a great place to visit, but people don't really consider staying here. So what I want to do is really encourage a more permanent population, in terms of not just visitors. Don't just play here. I want people to stay here. And so that's what I really want to focus on. And the opportunities for New Zealand, the way that I see it is, yes, Queenstown Lakes is the jewel in the tourism crown. Not my words, but that's what our local RTO describes us as. Why aren't we the jewel in the crown of the business world? The way that I see it is we could be the cellar door to the rest of the business community in this country. Yeah. So because we've got the talent coming through and visiting. So how great would that be to have a presence of the business community? So people, when they're visiting here, they have an opportunity to see the investments that they could make in New Zealand and what's happening in terms of the rest of the country. So that's what I want to see. Queenstown be the cellar door to the business community in New Zealand.
Yes. So in the likes of the Innovation Hub, I don't know if this is that's the appropriate place, but I'm wondering if since there's been the big World Expo in Dubai, potentially somewhere in Queenstown's a place where NZTE might put the remnants of that display, so that people that have been to it can actually come to Queenstown and see. Oh yes, I remember when I was in Dubai, and that might be the meetings. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but. Whether it's that or many other different concepts, this could be the landing pad for all of these amazing international achievers who really want to experience Queenstown. But the magic, I think, you're just touching on is the fact that get them to stay, get them to become, because it's when they can bring their experience, and like talking about Tim Hogan, who I know from Warner Bros. You're talking about the Chief Operating Officer from Disney. We are New Zealand. We have to be accepting of the fact that we are an amazing place, but we are a pretty small population, therefore we're pretty small budget. And to have people from overseas, from all different places, America, Europe, Asia, with the much larger scale budgets and experience, they've done things that we would love to do, right? So having them here and spreading their knowledge and experience amongst the Kiwis is just going to be amazing for us. So have you had thoughts or plans about how we might do that in Queenstown? there's been various discussions around what's the Silicon South might be, and I don't know if you've had any ideas or plans for when you become mayor. When you become mayor, what might happen? What would you like to see happen?
So, I mean, what you're touching on and what we need to get better at doing is conferences. So there's actually no conference centre here, which I think is a huge wasted opportunity. My vision is for our region to be the Davos of the South. And yeah, because the people are here, the quality of people coming through are the type of people that go to Davos. So why not really facilitate them here? So that's what I want to do.
I totally agree. So let's check things off here. We've got the people that are here already. We've got the people that are coming through anyway for the visiting and the holiday and the skiing and the activities and the remarks and other areas.
Yeah.
So why not capture their attention by running amazing conferences there, so that they can become like almost another international hub, like Davos, where people come. And that means that it's not just the opportunity for conferences to attract business to New Zealand, but conferences that choose Queenstown as a location to run their international conference, not because it's a Kiwi conference, but because it's an international conference. And then, of course, just bringing more and more people there. I like it. I'm in. When do we start?
Yeah.
I know. So
it makes sense, right? So it's where these people want to be. So let's tap them into our New Zealand network while they're here. And so the way I see it is having, you're right, something I want to have a New Zealand trade and enterprise presence here. I want to have a dedicated economic development. I want a centre that people can pop in and say, what's the investments here in New Zealand? What can I do? How can I get involved and have that be there
so
for them?
almost like, and not necessarily a business brokerage, but a investment brokerage, all combined. So if someone wanted to come in, because that and immigration, I guess, which goes hand in hand with it, right? So if you had NZTE, immigration, and any of the other required parties sitting there together, then someone could come in instead of I can't imagine what the customer journey is like now to do all of this and go to immigration separately and then try and coordinate it with this and coordinate with that. Whereas if they're all in the same place looking at each other, you could talk to them all at once and get all your details sorted out, which would mean it could expedite these amazing people joining us here in New Zealand. So that would be quite cool.
Because at the moment that work just isn't happening. So people come to me and my organisation to ask these questions about immigration. Like a couple of months ago, I had a call with a man who's just sold his company. He's been acquired by Meta. And so he contacted me because he wants to set up a Meta office here. But he didn't know where to begin. So we need to have this front of house. We need a shop front for these people, and we don't have one currently.
That's shop front, perfect word for it. Excellent. So, is there anything that is happening that you want to share in terms of the process around the voting at the moment?
Yeah, well, I just think it's so interesting. I mean, you and I have talked about disruption in the past and how we love identifying things that are ripe for disruption, and one of them now is local democracy. So it's really interesting to me. So we've got a terrible problem with diversity in local government, and the problem with that is that we don't have a diversity of thought. And so we've just been, it's Pride Week here in Queenstown. I've been to some events, and they talk about how organisations, when there's true diversity, that everybody thrives. And I think that with local council, it's such a terrible lack of diversity. For example, this is one of my favourite stats. There are more men named John in local government than there are people aged under 40.
Sorry, say that again?
There are more men named John serving on council than there are people aged under 40.
Gotcha. Oh goodness. Yep. Yeah. So Queenstown is one of those places that used to be a very small community, small
Mm,
permanent community, and very tight knit community. And I know a range of the potential people, from growing up there, right?
mm,
A bunch of old schoolmates, and that's just part and parcel, I guess. And what it takes is getting the people out to vote. So
yeah.
if you look at the stats, I imagine that there's a lot of younger people in Queenstown. Therefore, they could potentially vote in a bunch of younger people like yourself. But is it happening? Like, is how is voting conducted? Is there anything online? What sort of tools are there?
Yeah, so the turnout is really, really low for voting, and it's done by postal vote. I mean, I hate going to the post office. I will avoid the post office every chance I can get. I think that the fact that it's not online is actually rigging things in a way that it's just adding to a lack of diversity.
Ah,
But there's also people aren't aware of the issues, and there needs to be more engagement. So to get more engagement, we need to be communicating. Um, we need to be communicating with younger generations. And I mean, I keep getting called young all the time, and I am when I'm compared to uh, the average mayor who is 65, white male. So
yeah.
yeah, in comparison, I am young, but I'm not. I'm nearly 40. So if I'm being considered young voters in terms of representatives, then I'm the average age of the average Kiwi, so it means that half the population. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
You're representative of the people, basically,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're not too old that you're maybe not capturing what the people need. You're also not too young that you've got no idea and you're a bit green around the gills. So yeah. Uh, Now, are we going to have a look at this little online tool that you
Yes,
shared with me earlier? Is that time to
yes.
do that?
So, what's a way that we can get true democracy happening? And with that, it's with engagement. And in order to get engagement, we need to be communicating online. We need to have better online engagement because that's where a lot of people spend their time now. So,
Yeah.
true democracy listens to the people and does what the people. So, what I have done is I have partnered with the team at govote.nz. So,
Yeah.
this is a new platform that is about increasing democracy through engagement. So, it's really exciting because this is a way that people can have their say, and it's a way to engage with a younger generation of voters, the next generation who are online. So this is a platform that's been set up now. So I've got questions there that are specific to the Queenstown Lakes region. And the idea is this is a tool that all politicians can use in councils, central government, local government, to really engage with and ask people what they think on key issues. So I think that the younger population needs to be more aware of the issues that are happening. Local government affects our day-to-day lives much more than central government, but people do not know what's going on. For
Yeah.
example, uh, just recently, the local council voted in a land tax. So the land tax has a consequence of adding cost to anyone that owns a section. So this is why people should care. So one of the most popular housing developments is Hanley's Farm. Lots of young people are buying sections there. This new plan change that's been voted on and is proceeding, it means that there'll be a tax on this land. So young families are going to have to pay an additional tax. So for houses at Hanley's Farm, for a 150 square metre house, that's an additional $20,000 that they have to pay. So people don't realise that this is happening.
And
And
what is it called? Is it sorry, what type of tax is it?
they're calling it a levy, but it's a tax.
A levy.
They're levying a tax. So the money is going towards the Housing Trust, which is a wonderful organisation, and I'm really keen to support it. But it shouldn't be people at the bottom of the rung of the housing ladder that are paying for affordable housing.
No, absolutely not. And that's one of the questions and one of the hot subjects, right? So for those that don't know Queenstown very well, it has always been an amazing place where people love to come visit. And I think at one stage there was something around, is it 5 or 15,000 permanent residents and 85,000 tourists. So of course the infrastructure, which is afforded by the ratepayers by 5 or 15,000, has to actually cover the 85,000. And yes, a lot of that 85,000 would be in hotels, which has covered the rates, etc. But also a lot of them would be through different rentals and whatnot. So essentially, the infrastructure would get hammered. And the other side of it is, of course, that to have all these amazing people coming and enjoying the tourism, doing their bungee jumps and skiing, is that you need the people that operate the services, from driving the vehicles to serving the drinks to changing the beds, all those sorts of things from services. And those jobs typically aren't high paying, and therefore the cost of living in Queenstown can be a challenge for the people who are actually enabling Queenstown to be the amazing place it is as a tourist attraction.
That's right.
So yeah, the affordable housing. So who's trying to introduce the levy?
The council.
And why? Sorry, I'm asking the simple questions here.
So it's to go to raise funds for the Housing Trust to build houses for the 800 families that are on the list that need houses. So it doesn't make sense. I like the concept of theoretically developers paying for affordable housing as well. That's done traditionally in the past through negotiations and special housing areas where there's been a certain contribution to they've negotiated to give 10% of their houses or whatever in a development to the Housing Trust, which is fine. It's when it's mandated. That's when it gets, we need to be incentivizing people who are building housing stock, not punishing them. And if you charge a developer an extra 5% levy, that's going to get passed on. So it's just the people.
What about the businesses that employ the people? I could be on the wrong point here, but what about the businesses that employ the people? How can they help the situation?
Good question. I've got the solution. So this is something I've been thinking about. Yeah. So speaking of talent in our region, there's someone that lives in our region who has done huge development for worker accommodation for Amazon, Google, all across America. This is an American that lives here now. So his model is build to rent. And so what it is it's often on leasehold land, and it's purpose-built worker accommodation. So it's run commercially, so it's a much higher standard. And this is how I see it working here in Queenstown. Do build to rent downtown. There's some prime land. It needs to be downtown so people can walk to work, so that people don't need cars to live here.
Good thinking.
And have a product which is underwritten by major local employers because they can sign a lease to rent, 100 rooms for the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So NZ scheme, say, needs accommodation for their hundreds of employees. They can get guaranteed accommodation for their staff, which they can pass the costs on to their staff. And then it's a really attractive product. So this is the kind of thing that superannuation funds would invest in because it's a guaranteed return. So that's how it's the only way forward, I think. That's a win-win for everyone. So that's what I want to do. Yeah.
That certainly sounds like something worth exploring. The thing I find is that crazy thing where people do the same things we've always done and expect a different outcome. And what you've suggested is doing something different. Now, I can imagine there'll be people that will raise questions and raise problems because there's always someone that does, and that can derail any new idea. But I think it's time to look at new ideas because it's in that tipping point where we could just be so amazing. But if we don't do something to enable the people to live there, that make it happen, then it's just going to sit in the same position it's been in, with the same people arguing the same old story. So let's bring in some new blood, new stories, new approach. Got my vote.
And I'm seeing that with one of the people running for mayor in particular, just criticizes all these new ideas. Like, for example, I've been talking about getting automated vehicles on the road, so little mini vans, essentially. They can fit 4 people. And the technology is here. And this person keeps criticizing these plans, saying, there won't be automated vehicles for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to happen. And it's just, this is why we need someone who actually understands technology and understands that it's here already. Countries are doing this already. Yeah.
You have just hit the nail on the head. And I think it's interesting, right? So let me chuck in something from a different world that I come from. And that is that 10 years ago, the CIO sat under the CFO or the CMO, and in a lot of cases, not all cases, and IT was seen as a cost center. And of course, over the last 10 years, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, it completely flipped the other way. So now all the other senior managers at C-level, I'm getting approached all the time. Ryan, I need to improve my digital literacy. And the point they make, and it's quite realistic, is that they now can't make a strategic decision without having some form of understanding of technology. Now, if you go back to the Uberization of everything, that probably, I think, was when everything just flipped over and people started seeing that they could monetize things through digital services that they hadn't done previously, enable better customer experiences through digital services that hadn't been enabled before, and autonomous vehicles, not having to drive. If you've ever driven in Auckland traffic, you would love an autonomous vehicle and not have to drive, because 40 minutes later you got road rage when you get to your destination, having had some idiot cut you off 1,000 times. So yes, it takes someone with a technology background to actually move things forward into the future. And now is the time that I think every city in New Zealand needs a technology focused leader that can help make those decisions and look at these new challenging ideas, but have the experience and nous to work through the potential problems, and understand that yes, things won't ever go perfectly well the first time, but if you don't start somewhere.
You used a good word for it. It's literacy.
Yeah.
So, and this is why we do need people who have a good understanding of technology to be our leaders, because they have the literacy to be able to understand. And there's no silver bullet, there's no perfect solution, but you need to have that curious mind and being open to new technology.
Absolutely.
But just this idea that automated vehicles won't be here for another 10 years.
It's very like we sorry, just getting called by my wife, inopportune. So what I was going to say is Omeo. So Omeo, who made the autonomous vehicles that are seen around Christchurch Airport, but now also in South Korea. So they're looking at trying to build a autonomous vehicle industry in New Zealand around Christchurch as a hub. And that would be amazing if, be just up the road from you, 5 hours over the Mackenzie or Arthur's Mackenzie Pass. But this is the sort of thing we need to be thinking of, and that's doing things here, making it ourselves, and having that technical drive to get things going. Because if we don't, we're still going to be, riding a horse. But hey, we're just coming up on time, Olivia, and I thought to say, I'll do a little bit of a wrap up here, a little bit of a summary, and give you the opportunity to think of your closing remarks to everybody, so that you can give them, what you want them to take away from this discussion. So if I just cover off a few things, we talked initially about, why Olivia wanted to step up and be mayor. She's very cause driven. She's been involved in a lot of advocacy across a range of subjects. She has a really nice mix of experience from a legal background, which is always important, especially for playing with those 65-year-old councillors who will be in that space, but also a tech background. And this is what we've just been discussing now, which is going to be more and more important and prevalent for all leaders across business, local and central government, as the world, we talk about globalization. Now we're probably talking about what do we even call it, digitization of everything that we do. So it wasn't long ago that I was sitting in the boat on the back of a trailer, and we did the old joke of driving through the KFC drive-through in Queenstown. And imagine if we, in the future, not too distant future, we're going through the KFC drive-through in an autonomous vehicle. Like, I love it. And an autonomous vehicle to take us up to the top of the mountain to go skiing. These are the sorts of things that I think need to be being thought about now, planned and delivered in the next few years. We can't just carry on the same old way. So on that note, the last thing I'll touch on is that you showed us the new Go Vote opportunity, which is a way to reach the under 40s, because by postal vote, which is the current system, it really advantages the people of that era who used to write letters, whereas the young people today are not so inclined to make it happen. And I had an idea for you, so I'll chuck this in as my last thing. Why don't you set up a thing in the centre of Queenstown or at each bar, which is just sign the letter and we'll package and post it for you. But you sign the bet. The classic have 15 pints at the pub is the old Queenstown way. So you're sitting there with all the pints lined up. People just come in and sign. You wrap them up and send them in, and there's your postal vote sorted. But I'll hand over to you now for closing remarks. What do you want to share with everybody about
closing remarks? Is now I know why there's a sign at KFC in Queenstown that says no boats on trailers through the drive-through.
yeah. That wasn't there. And I won't go into all the stories, but that was part of the magic of Queenstown, the fun you'd have. Almost like you got away with a little bit of rule breaking. But I'll leave it there. But what I'm really looking forward to, hopefully, because it does come down to the vote, it does come down to the people, is seeing you bringing technology into Queenstown and driving it forward with a really strong economical base, and of course solving that age-old problem of the infrastructure to support the people and the housing pricing challenge, because there's a great range of diversity of economical ability, and of course there's all the people that make the place run, that we rely on, that need to live there, need housing. So I think you're the person to solve all those challenges, and I like the solutions you put forward, and I like the forward thinking, and I like the technology. So with that, Olivia, thank you so much for all your time today. We'll say ka kite anō to everybody, and fingers crossed you'll be Mayor of Queenstown soon.
Thank you for your awesome support as always. Haere rā.
Cool. Have a lovely day in Queenstown.